Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something you actually brought to us, this whole area of iris scanning for identity.
Yeah, it's definitely developing fast. We've got sources looking into it. A company called WorldCoin.
WorldCoin, right, co-founded by OpenAI's Sam Altman, I believe.
That's the one. And they're actively scanning irises right now. In the U.S., they're operating in, what is it, 5 states?
hmm
Arizona, California, Maryland, Oregon, Texas.
And people get digital currency for it.
In exchange, yeah.
Ooh.
That's the model.
Okay, so let's try to unpack this a bit because there's this immediate tension, isn't there? You've got this promise, this idea of financial access for all.
Mhm.
But then, well, these pretty big questions about identity, privacy,
Hmm.
where does this data actually go? Control.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it feels important to understand what's really happening on the ground.
And the sources suggest that the rollout hasn't been, well, universal.
No, not at all. It seems quite targeted, actually. Some are calling it a quiet rollout, focusing on more vulnerable groups.
Like who
Yeah.
specifically?
Well, the sources mention people experiencing homelessness, uh, shelter residents, even inmates in some cases.
Which immediately brings up this phrase from the sources, digital exploitation disguised as aid.
Exactly. You're in a tough spot. Is that offer of digital currency really something you could freely refuse? Or does it feel like you have to trade your biometric data? It raises serious questions about informed consent.
Yeah, it really does. And what's the bigger picture here? What's WorldCoin aiming for with these scans?
Their main concept seems to be this world ID. Think of it as a universal proof of identity, based entirely on your unique iris pattern.
Okay. And why do they say we need this?
Well, their stated reasons include things like uh, boosting security in the age of AI, basically proving online that you're a real person, not a bot.
Right, okay. But here's where, the sources push us to think ahead. What if this World ID isn't optional?
That's the core concern.
Could it become, like, mandatory for getting a job, accessing healthcare, maybe even for voting?
It's a really significant question, especially when you look at the U.S. situation right now. The sources highlight a major gap.
Which is?
There aren't really any strong.
But the sources really force us to ask you, the listener, a pretty fundamental question. Will you have a choice not to be scanned?
That really is the heart of it, isn't it? It feels like we're being presented with a trade-off. Convenience, maybe enhanced security, potentially at the cost of controlling your own very personal biometric data?
What access might depend on that scan down the line?
We just don't know yet.
There was this quote in one piece we read, kind of haunting. They say, your eyes are the windows to your soul.
Yeah.
Now, they might be the key to your freedom or your prison. Really makes you stop and think.
It certainly does. And look, this deep dive, it's really just scratching the surface. This conversation about biometric ID, it's going to get much bigger.
So as you think about this, maybe consider that long-term picture. The balance between convenience and, well, privacy. Control.
And maybe leave you with this final thought, something that stuck with us from the sources.
Hmm.
Once you give up your iris, there's no logging out.
Think about what that permanence means.